next. Let's bring in our panel, Fox News chief political analyst Brit Hume, Kimberly Strassel, a member of the editorial board at the Wall Street Journal, and USA Today White House correspondent Francesca Chambers. Brit, what do you make of this extended ceasefire and this kind of, slow roll of releasing of the hostages in Hamas's control?
Well, it shows you why Hamas picked up the hostages and took them in the first place, because they could deal them like cards off a deck to buy time for themselves. I don't think this is at all to Israel's military advantage. In fact, I think quite the opposite. But there's a long custom tradition in Israeli life that you do whatever you have to do to redeem hostages. You remember the case of Gilad Shalit. Israel traded 1,000 Palestinian prisoners to get one soldier back. So this is obviously, compared to that, this is a better deal. And we can't really have good visibility, Brett, on how far along the Israeli offensive has gone and how successful it has been. But the fact that Hamas has been willing to make these deals and so urgently apparently wants them suggests that they're in trouble. They're having a hard time. So I think it's something Israel probably would have preferred not to do militarily, felt it had to, and maybe it'll turn out that it'll work out for them after all.
Kimberly, understanding that Israel is going to go forward eventually once this pause stops to try to go after Hamas leadership, you can't rely on the numbers of civilian casualties, but it is in the thousands now inside Gaza. What do we think about that and the humanitarian efforts inside Gaza?
Well, look, I think that the Israelis are doing all that they can. And this is one of the other things that's remarkable is the White House has obviously been very much behind this truce and ceasefire in aid of getting the hostages out. But you also see progressives pushing for a permanent ceasefire. And now you have Democrats in Congress calling to attach conditions to any Israeli aid that goes forward, saying that they want to see more humanitarian conditions and better adherence to human rights. The Israelis are doing everything that they can. They've allowed for safe corridors. They've had pauses in bombings. They've warned everyone to get to the south of Gaza in order to not get in the way of their operations. To the extent that we are seeing a lot of civilian casualties still, it's because Hamas is not letting people through. They continue to engage in operations underneath or around civilian areas. And I really think that responsibility, more of it, needs to be put on those that are putting those civilians in danger. That cannot be the new argument for why this ceasefire goes on forever, even though you know that is what Hamas is going to continue to say and those who are protesting the Israeli operation.
Yeah, here's one of the family members of talking about the hostage deal. Take a listen.
It's very bittersweet. We've been through a nightmare, absolute nightmare of hell, and the psychological warfare at play is very much real. We have this high of Danielle and Amelia coming home. On the other hand, this low of waiting for the rest of our family.
Yeah, it's tough. Francesca, the politics of this at home, it seems like the Biden White House is taking a little bit of criticism. Washington Post writes it this way: White House grapples with internal divisions on Israel-Gaza. Biden's handling of what is arguably the biggest foreign policy crisis of his presidency is dividing a White House that has prided itself on running a disciplined and united operation. The Israel-Gaza war has roiled the administration more than any other issue in Biden's first 3 years in office, according to numerous aides and allies inside and outside the White House, as staffers agonize over their positions on highly emotional issues. Our latest poll has a majority disapproving of the president's handling of the Israel-Hamas war, 39 to 55. Are you feeling that pressure over at the White House, how they deal with this, Francesca?
Well, we've also seen it inside the State Department, Brett, where Secretary of State Antony Blinken issued a letter to State Department staffers. They've been holding listening sessions as well at the State Department. And as you talk about polling more broadly, an issue that the president faces is that younger Democrats in particular don't agree with his handling of the war. You mentioned a political problem for him as you look towards the 2024 election. He needs young voters in the Democratic Party to turn out for him. And when they're disagreeing with his foreign policy decisions here, also in broader polling, as you pointed out, his foreign policy agenda hasn't been particularly popular with Americans. They're facing a lot of difficulty on these issues, and you've heard the White House trying to take credit for this temporary ceasefire and the American who has been released, and potentially the release of the 2 other additional women, and it speaks to that.
Yeah. One of the criticisms, Brit, is about how they're handling Iran. Here's the former House Speaker, Kevin McCarthy.
That's unacceptable, but you have to understand, why do they feel empowered to do this? It wasn't something that happened last week. It's something that happened when we changed administrations. Under the Trump administration, they were listed as terrorist organizations. They would know they would not be in a position to do this. But in February 2021, Biden lifted it, and they're no longer listed as terrorists.
And Brit, we're now at more than 70 attacks on U.S. forces in the Middle East. It's not, 10, 20, it's 73 attacks on U.S. military forces from Iran proxies.
Yeah, and what those comments from Kevin McCarthy suggest is that this number that you're seeing, a disapproval number on the president and this situation in the Middle East, a lot of it is people think he isn't doing enough, that he's not strong enough against Iran, that he is soft in some respects in his support for Israel. I think, by and large, the president's position on Israel versus Hamas is a position supported by a huge majority of the American people. So why one might ask, is he fighting this mutiny inside his own White House and inside his own administration? And that, I think, Brett, is simply this. In governing, he came out not as the centrist and the center-left deal-maker that we thought we knew when he was in the Senate, and later as well, but as a guy who governed from the left. And there's a price to be paid for doing that, because on the left is where their support for Israel is weakest, and his support for Israel has got him in trouble. It is part of the price he is paying politically for the way he is governed.
Kimberly, we're seeing Iran proxies that haven't had a lot of power seem like they have power, even more than they have in the past. You have the Houthi rebels supported by Iran. New York Times writing, U.S. Navy rescues ship from pirate attack in Gulf of Aden. The United States investigating whether Iran was involved in this incident directly. Hours after the attack, 2 missiles were fired at the Navy ship involved in that rescue. The Houthis have not been well armed, but they're firing off perhaps directly at U.S. vessels.
Yeah, what we're seeing is all of these groups emboldened. And it's because they know that there is this incredible reluctance by the Biden administration to address the root cause of Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis, which is Iran. There seems to be this odd desire by the administration. They continue to cling to this Iran nuclear deal that was started obviously under the Obama administration. Biden was there at the time. They won't let go of this, and they're desperate almost, it seems, to avoid any sort of greater conflict with Iran. And that has sent a message to all of these groups that this president isn't willing to take steps. And so why not continue to poke the bear and get more aggressive? And I think we're only going to see more of that unless this administration steps up and faces the real problem, which is the group, the organization, that Iran, which is actually behind all of the rest of this.
Yeah. Well, panel, thanks very much.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.